Jake, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me here.
Let's start with the main topic that everyone is talking about in the election, that's job creation. Can you speak to what you see as a plan to create jobs in your riding in particular?
Southwest Miramichi-Bay du Vin is primarily peat moss and lobster fishery in the Bay du Vin basin and region, some farming in Napan. The rest of it's primarily salmon fishing and forestry. So for me to create jobs in my riding, we're looking at shale gas development. That would be in the upper basin between Chipman and Doketown. We're also looking at finding a way to revitalize the salmon fishery. We have a lot of outfitters and guides who are deeply concerned with the emergence of the additional spawners for bass fishery. We have a lot of our smolts are getting eaten before they get out into the bay and out into the fresh waters, so it's having a direct impact. And as you know, salmon fishing is a $20 million industry in basically the riding that I used to represent, Southwest Miramichi, is primarily salmon would be the number two, maybe even sometimes the number one industry locally. So there's a deep concern there. A lot of people believe we need a commercial bass fishery as well as an additional 2, 3, or 4 extra recreational weeks of bass fishing. In my opinion, what we need to do primarily is to get the Gaspereau fishermen, smelt fishermen, shad fishermen, lobster fishermen and salmon fishermen united and on the same page, because when they're cutting open a striped bass and you're finding smelts, grills and baby lobster, it's not just an issue for the salmon fishery, it's everything. They are a predator species right now. They're eating everything we have in our water system. So in order to sustain the jobs we have in that industry, we have to unite and do something quickly to help those smolts get back out into the ocean.
You talked about the salmon fishery, but you mentioned lobster briefly. You know that this past year and the last couple of years has been very low. Catch prices for lobster, what do you see happening there? What can the government do to get those catch prices back up?
Provincial government, from what I understand, we don't get too involved with a lot of the lobster issues. They're primarily federal. What I've been doing is trying to familiarize myself with the industry. I've met with different lobster fishermen. Some of them say the catch is down, but they say they have good days and bad. And at the same time, their concern is bass too, right? That's a concern for them as well. So that's one of my primary focuses for this riding will be the striped bass, because they're not only causing a problem for the Atlantic salmon fishermen, they're causing it for the lobster fishermen as well. So that's one thing that I will do if I'm elected, is I will be a strong voice to find a way to lessen the attack that they're having on our fish stocks.
Forestry is always a huge issue in Miramichi riding and in yours. There's been a lot of talk about it since the release of the government's plan earlier this year. How do you see that playing? I mean, obviously there's a new mill coming into Doketown, but for your riding, how do you see that impacting the people in your riding?
I see our forestry plan as an enabling plan. I see it as a way for businesses to make their mills efficient, make them, grow them, expand them, refurbish them, revitalize them. In the process, creating construction jobs. But I see it as industry always says they don't have enough wood. There's always a company that says they don't have enough wood. You hear it almost every day as an MLA. It's not one company, it's the next one. But I think forestry is so challenging today that our government had to sit down and listen long and hard to many companies and many stakeholders within the industry. I see our plan as, okay, you want more wood. They're saying, yes, we want more wood. We want them to create more work. So what we did, we'll help them with allocation, but the onus is going to be on the companies to refurbish, revitalize, reinforce, expand, grow. In the process, you get short-term construction employment opportunities, but long-term, you get more people in the forest and sometimes more people at mills as well. Some of our mills are running more than 2 shifts now. Some mills went from 2 shifts to 3. We saw job creation in Twin Rivers, JDI, probably more than that. Just off the top of my head, I remember those 2. Doketown getting a new sawmill is good because next spring they'll start the construction of the new sawmill, and that is 2 years of short-term construction employment opportunity for people in the trades unions, local people, non-union and union primarily. You'll probably see some short-term employment, but then when it's all said and done, JDI could have probably taken everything out of Doketown because Chipman is bigger and it's newer. I mean, the sawmill in Doketown, I believe, is 1956 or something like that. I mean, for JDI, it's a statement. There are some that have criticized our plan, and quite heavily at that, but at the same token, Doketown is primarily, JDI is their biggest employer. If I picture Doketown without JDI, there's no Doketown. There's nothing in Doketown now. It's like Blackville and Boys Town. We grew up in an area that had the Jilks' mill, the Sturgeon's two-seater mills, Coulter's mill, Blackville mill, Acadia, Atcon, Repap. We had all these mills. They're not there anymore. Forestry has changed to the point where it's competitive. If you cannot afford to run, you're not going to be in the game. That's as simple as that today. I believe the new mill is a great investment for Doketown. And I also believe Mr. Ross Creelman, the former owner and founder of Marwood Limited in the New Maryland area, Ross Creelman is the pioneer of pellets here in the province of New Brunswick. He was a Nova Scotian who moved here and became a forester at a young age. Very nice man. He cracked a joke that pellets were so important in the early going that he had to give them away. You can see the humor when you talk to him, but he gets it. He knows how to build industrialized pellets and residential, and I see the pellet plant in either Newcastle or Nelson, and I believe that it's what we've been missing for 6 or 7 years. Now, we've had people toying around with the idea, Northern European companies, no pun intended. A lot of them just want to find out how much money we're going to give them, and New Brunswick has to remove themselves from that way of thinking. We cannot afford to simply pay for every single job that the private sector creates. We have to get out of that. And it doesn't matter who these companies are, how much we like them, how old they've been running, how long they've been running. We have to move away from that. And when Creelman came along, he has a $50 million idea, but it's going to utilize probably somewhere close to 500,000 cubic meters of a biomass and low-grade pulp and other species that we currently have no market for. So it's very beneficial to Miramichi, Doketown, all the surrounding mills in the north, and it's going to create 100 jobs, probably 35 on site, 75 or 85 or 90 in the woods. This is very beneficial to Miramichi.
You represented the last legislature, and if you're elected again, you'll represent a larger riding, but still primarily rural, almost all rural. In rural New Brunswick, you see a lower population, and the population there is older. So I'll ask sort of a two-point question is, how do we get people to stay and to move in, become more, for rural communities to become more vibrant, and at the same time, how do you look after the older population that's in these places, and many times a fair distance away from resources?
Yeah. Right now, what we have going on in the province of New Brunswick is our population is getting older by the minute, as it always is, but we have a very increasingly old population. So our young people between the ages of 18 and 30, and then some, they're going west. Now it's twofold. People can say, well, they're going out west because the opportunity's better and the wages are higher. That's true. What are they doing out there? What are they doing out there, and can they do it here? That's the question that our government has been forever trying to get people to see. Newfoundland 10 years ago was poor, probably poorer than we are here. And they developed their offshore oil, and they're making revenue now. They're creating wealth and opportunity. And what we're trying to do here, in order for us to, seniors right now in New Brunswick, in my opinion, and I'm going to state this, the quality of life for the average senior citizen who does not have the benefit of having some sort of private or public pension, the quality of life for them is decreasing. It's decreasing because we don't have wealth in our province. It's true that we will need more nursing home beds in the future. As a matter of fact, we are building 36 more in Newcastle, 3B beds and 30 down in Tabs and Tack, and of course we had the new rebuild in Boys Town, but it's no increase in beds, but it's a brand new home, and that's good for people there. But we have to find a way to give our young people a chance to stay here. And we're not doing that by not creating wealth and prosperity. The only way that I see we can do that, we have 5 mining projects, we have the Energy East pipeline, we have shale gas development. I believe we absolutely have to tap into every single one of them. And there's 22,000 people in Western Canada. I don't believe we can bring them all home tomorrow morning. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that over the next 5 years, if we tap into $10 billion of private sector investment, we've got a chance to bring at least a couple of thousand home, and maybe a few thousand people migrating in that were not from here in the first place. Fast forward ahead 5 years, if we've tapped into $10 billion of private sector investment and grew the population of New Brunswick by 8 or 9 grand or more, 8 or 9,000 people or more again, this is positive. That's the trend that we have to create. We're not going to create wealth and prosperity in the province by creating some short-term paving and construction jobs by putting it on a credit card. That's not going to do it. It's true we'll have a few better roads. I mean, I have Southwest Miramichi. I have more chip seal than anyone. Our roads are horrible. I'm the first to admit it. We're forever trying to fix them, and there's not enough money to go around. We have to create more revenue. In order to do that, we must develop our natural resource industries. As many as we can, do it safely, responsibly. We've taken baby steps on the shale gas potential locally. We built Energy Blueprint, Natural Gas and Oil Blueprint, Energy Institute, oil and gas commissions being worked on. Like we've literally changed the regulations and royalties to mirror them from best practices and focusing on Canada and some places else around the globe. But we have to tap into that potential, because right now I've talked to a lot of kids that are 16, 17, 18, 19. They know what they're faced with. Kids get it. Our teenagers know when they graduate, whether they go to college or university, whether they get educated or not, they may still end up out west. Now I'm going to tell you, in the last week, I watched a good friend of mine, Melissa Mountain. She's a school teacher. I mean, as our population gets older and as our people leave, the population in the schools lower. We're actually now sending our nurses and teachers to Western Canada. It was one thing when it was pipe fitters, millwrights, electricians, engineers. Now we're sending teachers and nurses. There's no end to this. This will not stop, and the quality of life for seniors will continue to go down without increased revenue. And that's what makes our party different right now, and especially in this election.
You mentioned teachers and stuff there, so let's talk education a little bit.
Sure,
what are the challenges moving forward, in your riding and within New Brunswick itself for education, providing a change in the pace of education, the decreased population? There's a lot of challenges there.
Yeah, there's a number of challenges, and and they're not getting any easier. I mean, I think Doketown had 4 or 5 children in kindergarten. I mean, just think about that. Somebody said to me, Jake, please don't close our school. They don't have to worry about me closing their school. If it changes, there won't be anybody in the school. And this is the reality that people have to look at. None of us are magicians. No politician has the magic answer. We just can't keep watching our people leave and being angry about it, but not doing anything about it. I want to do something about it. So do our party. And with education right now, we've got, our numbers are down, and they're going to continue. Blackville School used to have 700 kids in it, I think. You and I went there. They must have had 700 or 800 at one point. I think right now there's 500 or less. Millerton used to have 300 kids. I think there's 100 now. That's a trend that we have to stop. Like, I was talking to Eric Walls. Him and I were laughing. We each had 4 kids. The 2 of us are raising the population up there. But teachers tell me that one thing that they like about our government is that we didn't mess too much with the actual curriculum, and that we got them involved more. My wife's a teacher. I have a lot of friends that are teachers. I'm all but a teacher. Teachers want to control the curriculum. Teachers know better than any bureaucrat or politician what needs to be taught. We have to let them do that. We have to continue that. But our primary issue is decreased enrollment. It's lower, our population lowers. Once again, every question you ask me today, it'll always come back to revenue shortfalls, out-migration, and a decrease in population. That's killing us. It's killing us on all levels.
Healthcare is obviously another one that people always talk about. We know that costs are going up. what do we need to do to maintain or even increase the level of healthcare we're providing for people in this province? And let's speak to the rural areas that you want to represent.
Yeah. When I go door to door, and I've knocked on 2,500 doors, maybe more. I'm still going, still trying to knock on them. Seniors in particular, as you know, the last 60 days of a human being's life is the time where you'll incur the most cost on the healthcare system, and that's you know, per capita, right? So they don't want to go to nursing homes. Like I knocked on doors of senior citizens all day. They want to stay in your house. Think of yourself. I can tell you right now, I see the work the nursing homes do. They do great work, but seniors deep down are human beings. They want to stay in their house. As a government, we've tried to do more things to keep them home and keep them home longer, because that's really what they want to do. Our healthcare budget was set to take over the entire budget. In 10 years, we have no money for roads, schools, for nothing. 10 years from now, if we don't develop industry, our healthcare budget will encompass everything, the whole thing. And that's what people need to realize. We need to get healthier. We need to exercise more. We need to join Mango programs and Weight Watchers and dietary programs. These are the things we have to engage our citizens in. We all have to play a role in that and to look after our own health, because the more we are unhealthy, and some people just get sick, they can't help it. People get sick all the time, but the more we can keep our bodies healthy, the less we cost the healthcare system down the road. I think the MRI was a great addition to the hospital. I think the Dalhousie Medical School is a great retention effort that enables third-year students to practice locally, and it will help us retain a few extra doctors at a young age, and that's positive for Miramichi. Like I say, I just think out of all the changes we made, those two I think stand out a bit for me, the retention efforts and the MRI machine. But like I say, it's still a revenue shortfall. At the end of the day, we can't allow our health budget to take over our paving and education budgets. Like social development is up over $1 billion now. It's hurting, you know, and that's why we have to create opportunity here in the province.
The last thing I have is that you spoke about shale gas earlier and about the need for it and what it could benefit to it. Can you just speak a bit to those who are critical of it, of why they shouldn't be, of why it's safe, of why it should go ahead?
Okay, first of all, what I'd like to say is that in Sussex, we have Corridor Resources. They're a Halifax company. They've been down there hydraulic fracturing for 6 or 7 years. Don't quote me on that. Check it out. I think I'm close. They did some of the last hydraulic fracturing they did this year and last year and the year before. They used propane, which means they're not even using water, let alone the chemicals that we watch. The problem we have here is that mainstream media, and I'm sorry if I'm criticizing you, but I'm just going to go ahead and say it, we're forever promoting 1988 Americanized propaganda versions of what went wrong in another jurisdiction. I'm not saying things didn't go wrong, but a lot of it has been refuted, and some of it has ended up in court. I've read numerous documents on the very things that are scaring people. If you built your home today in a methane pocket, you'd be lighting your tap on fire. There's nothing you could do about that. Forget shale gas. I mean, that's just reality. We already have shale gas in the province of New Brunswick. 100 years ago, from Lower Coverdale, New Brunswick, wooden creosote-based pipes ran natural gas into what is now the city of Moncton and was then, and it lit all the street lamps. We've been using natural gas in the province for more than 100 years. Shale is natural gas as well. It's a sweet gas. But at the same time, Saskatchewan did it. Northeastern British Columbia did it. When you remove Alberta, because it's, you know, people see oil sands. Move that aside. Look at Saskatchewan. Look at Fort St. John. Look what they did. And last but not least, look at Sussex. Look at Sussex right now. I mean, those wells are producing today. Like, I don't know of anybody down there that's had trouble with their water, you know, and so I really believe that we've laid all the foundations, we've prepared all the regulations, We made the royalty structures mid and end loaded, basically. The first couple of years they recoup their cost, but then instead of a baseline of 10%, we can make 20%, we can make 30%. If that well produces, we're going to make a lot of money off that well. And I think we have to do it. I believe we have to do that for our people, because if we're going to have to complain and have excuses for why the population's down, why people are moving out west, why the divorce rate's climbing, why all these things are contributing factors to a poor economy, there has to become one political party that has the guts and the common sense to develop their natural resource industries, and that's the PC party of New Brunswick.
Right, well, last thing is I will let you have the last word, and you can speak to the voters and tell them why they should cast their vote for you on Monday.
I believe you should vote for me because I want to get something done. I'm a man of action. I'm honest. If it's bad news, I will tell you the news, and I won't lie about it. Here in the province of New Brunswick, you have a choice. You can vote for short-term construction jobs and pavement, or you can vote for the future of New Brunswick to give your children and your grandchildren a better opportunity to make their home right here in Miramichi.